And now I'm very excited to welcome back an amazing horse capper in Mr. Patrick Gates from theoddsbreakers.com. You can follow Patrick on Twitter at Gator Betting. Well, here we are, Patrick. The third leg of the Triple Crown is finally here. Feels a little earlier this year. How you doing, bud?
Does. Good. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's whenever you wait all year for the Triple Crown to start here with the Derby, and then it seems like it just kind of flies by from there. It's crazy. We've already kind of reached the start of the last leg of the Triple Crown, but it's exciting. It means Saratoga, obviously, it's gonna be held there this year, and there's really no better place in the summer than kind of spending a weekend at the spa.
That's right. And so it is, like you just alluded to, a little bit different this year. Um, and yeah, it's June 5th, and we're talking about. I kind of just remembered like the Belmont, like mid-June, maybe a little bit more
Yeah.
towards the end. And here we are. It's because it just all happened to start early this year. But hey, man, yeah. And I was just going to ask you, what's different about the Belmont Stakes? You can talk about the different course and why, and anything else that's coming up.
Yeah, so the Belmont obviously is traditionally run at Belmont Park, another New York racing course, but this year it moves to Saratoga. Saratoga has, I don't believe, hosted this before here, but along with the venue change, there's a distance change as well. It's traditionally run at 1.5 miles, but this year it'll be run at 1.25 miles, obviously impacting some horses more than other, which we can touch on later. But yeah, I mean, it should be a great. I think it's going to draw a pretty nice crowd here, and I think it's going to be held here actually in 2025 as well, with the renovations to Belmont Park, excuse me, continuing.
Yeah. So hopefully it's done on time. Well, well, I
Yeah,
wonder what.
we'll see.
You never know with these things. I wonder if is it like mostly stands, just nicer stands, maybe nicer facilities, and obviously maybe it's bigger.
Yeah, Belmont Park was a pretty old course, so I think it's due for the renovation. Kind of out in your neck of the woods, Arlington Park is knocked down, and now they're putting up apartments. So it seems like they're trying to hold on to the few race courses that we have left here, especially kind of some of the more prominent ones. Saratoga, longstanding course as well in Saratoga Springs, gorgeous venue, and I think it is a little bit bigger than Belmont here, so we should see a pretty good crowd this year.
Yeah, we should. And so I'm excited for that. And bigger crowd, shorter race though. I always love Big Sandy though. It's like a little different coming into it. And
Yeah.
but let's face it, Patrick, this has been a different kind of a horse racing year. Some unexpected stuff happening. Maybe I'm just sour because I didn't win the Kentucky Derby or the Prix. Maybe that's
Yeah.
it, man. I don't know. But one thing that seems kind of consistent is we're talking about the weather. What's going on this weekend?
Yeah, so unlike the first two legs of the Triple Crown, I think we're going to see some pretty ideal conditions here. It should be a fast track at Saratoga. There is some rain slated for Thursday, but I don't think that'll impact the races come Saturday. Should be clear all day Friday, and Saturday looks to be ideal racing conditions. So should be a great kind of race as well with the weather. Kind of you can take that out of your handicapping process.
I hope so. I hope so. And
Yeah,
this is in New York, right? Saratoga Springs.
correct. Yep.
I see some showers, but I don't even know what that means because it's less than 50%. So I think we
Yeah.
just gotta wait. But what's interesting about the Derby that it showed on the PPs that it was a fast track. I'm not so sure about that. The Preakness was definitely muddy, but what was the Kentucky Derby really that fast of a track?
Yeah, I don't think so at all. I know we kind of touched on this when we talked about the Preakness, and you kind of looked at the past performances and you saw Mystic Dan's the weather conditions for that Derby, and you said fast. And I don't know if I'd classify it as fast by any means. Maybe good, but not fast. I think we'll see kind of true fast conditions come
Right.
Saturday.
Absolutely. And this is only Wednesday, but we're getting on a little bit early here. Why don't you give me some history about the Belmont then? Obviously, is this the first time it's been on a different course? What's so significant about this race?
Yeah, so the Belmont's been held in New York, I think, since its first edition back in 1867. It was held at another course. I can't think of the name of it, but it was in the Bronx. In 1905, it was moved over to Belmont Park. It's been held, or it's had a few years that it hasn't been run due to kind of anti-gambling legislations back in the early 1900s. And also, I know we mentioned the change before. going from a mile and a half to a mile and a quarter here. And it has been run at that distance before, kind of in the late 1800s and early 1900s there. I mean, Secretariat's victory here is kind of what the Belmont's most known for, that 31 length victory, which kind of still stands as the largest margin here and still stands as the fastest time for a mile and a half. So while it is kind of, I guess, maybe not perceived to be as kind of notable as the Derby, it is the oldest of the Triple Crown races. So it does have that over the Derby.
Yeah, it is the oldest. And that's interesting. Big Sandy not there because it's not in Big Sandy, but here we are. We're in Saratoga, but it's a mile and a quarter this year. So that's definitely different. Is the post positions very important here in this kind of race at Saratoga, or is it maybe something not as significant as like the Derby?
Yeah, so you see kind of in the Derby that the post positions really matter more, kind of given that 20 plus horse field sometimes. We only have 10 in this race going off Saturday, and the number one post position is actually won the most times, just under 19% since the beginning here. Other notable positions that have had success is that 2 and 3 slot, as well as the 5 slot, I believe. So you're kind of looking to be along the rail here. We can get on it. We can touch on it a little bit later, actually. But the kind of the race style for the Belmont has traditionally favored those front runners and those guys who kind of close up near the front of the pace.
So even with the long distance in the Belmont, it's favored the front runners.
Yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive. You'd almost think that the increase in distance would give these closers more time, but that hasn't really kind of been the case. There's a stat, I think I have it, yeah, right here, that 12 of the last 15 winners kind of were in 4.5 lengths of the half mile pole. So you're going to kind of want to be in the front of the pace there, or kind of just off the front runners.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's surprising, and that's great information. Thank you. And now you have a shorter race, so we'll see. Who is going to be the front runners in this race? I should ask then.
Yeah, so I'm looking at 2 of the front runners right now. Seize the Gray, obviously we saw him go off in the Preakness, kind of going more towards the start, so he'll kind of want to do that same path as well. Resilience shouldn't give him too much like pushback per se. Sorry, couldn't think of the word right there. Pushback on him getting out to the lead. Another horse that's going to want to go out to the lead here is going to be the number 6, Dornock. Dornock hasn't had his last 2 races haven't been fantastic by any means. He hasn't been able to kind of get out to the front like he's wanted to. And we last saw his win come back in the Fountain of Youth Stakes, where he was able to get out to the front of the pace. So I think Louis Saez is going to kind of want to embrace that strategy that's found him success in the past and move to the front. The only other horse that I could see kind of going out to the front here too is the 10 Mindframe. And again, Sierra Leone and that 9 slot is going to drop back once that gate opens. So he should have kind of a clear shot to the front of the pack as well. Only racing twice, he has shown that he does like to be kind of out near the front.
Okay. Yes. Early presser possibly for Mindframe. And that's an interesting horse because very lightly raced here. It looks like coming into the Derby, which, I guess that kind of leads me into the next question here. I mean, how are the speed figures looking in this race compared to other Belmonts? And I see Mindframe's got some pretty good ones himself.
Yes, we only have 3 horses here who have reached a triple-digit buyer. We have Seize the Gray in the Preakness. Mystic Dan has done it twice and is the only horse to do so, recording 100 and 101 in the Derby and the Southwest Stakes. And then Mindframe, too, when he broke his maiden at Gulfstream Park, he posted a 103 buyer. So you do have some speed in the races, and Seize the Gray and Mindframe are kind of those front runners here. So that race does set up nicely for them as well. But Mystic Dan kind of just off the pack, shouldn't have too bad of a trip here either. So it should be a pretty fast to moderate pace here, I'm guessing. I don't think it's going to be overly fast like we've seen kind of at the Preakness, but there's definitely going to be some early speed here.
Gotcha. There you go. So we're going to have some early speed. And Sierra Leone is going to be one of the few closers in this race, it looks like. Sierra Leone and Anna Marie. It looks like they're listed more of the ones that should lay off the pace a little bit and kind of come from behind. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. I think Sierra Leone's kind of the main closer in this one. On Marie, I can see kind of more towards the middle to the back of the pack. I don't think he's going to take kind of a similar trip to Sierra Leone where it really hangs off the pace. But if you look at that last one, his race 2 in the Derby, he just got a terrible start here. And before you look at his first few races, kind of middle of the pack. So I don't think he'll be as far back come kind of the quarter half mile pole as Sierra Leone, but he certainly won't be up there contending out of the gate.
Okay. Okay. Good information. So, leading to my next question, who are you tossing off your card in this 10-horse race? Hopefully, they all stick, right?
Yeah, it's a tough one too because I think everyone's live when it comes to kind of that third or fourth position if you're playing some exotics here. But two of the horses that I don't think are serious win contenders in this race are going to be the number 4 Wine Steward and the number 7 Protective. They have the largest odds, so I guess it's easy to say, oh, you can just toss them. But I don't think the Wine Steward really has the speed to compete here in his last race, the Peter Pan, which is traditionally kind of correlated to success in the Belmont. Raced well, but lost to Antiquarian, who is that 5th horse in the Belmont. So I like that horse a little bit more than the Wine Steward. And then Protective as well. Just while his speed figures have improved in his last 2 races, I don't think he's shown enough to really compete in this race, given the quality of the field.
Okay. Okay. So, there you go with your ones you're tossing. I mean, is this field as good as other Belmonts, or is it a little bit below average?
I think it's kind of on par. I mean, we've seen kind of following the Derby, the fall off and just the quantity of horses, especially the Preakness and Belmont moving forward. I think we kind of got a larger field this year in the Belmont than we would have given the decrease in distance from that 1.5 miles. But it's not a bad field. We have the Derby winner, we have the Preakness winner, we have multiple other horses who have won graded stakes. We have this exciting horse in Mindframe who's only raced twice, but is kind of shown the possibility of really putting on an impressive performance here and kind of staking that claim of the best 3-year-old. So it's a great field. There's plenty of storylines that you can go with. So yeah, in terms of overall grade of the field, maybe an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. So it's
Okay.
should be a pretty good race.
You're pretty high on that, and you know a lot of horse betting since you bet a lot of horses. And I guess the more novice guy would say, "No, there's no Triple Crown, guys. This field sucks." you know.
Yeah, I definitely understand that argument too. Obviously, you could kind of would have liked Mystic Dan to win the Preakness, but that second place finish isn't going to get it done. Yeah, I don't know when we'll see the next Triple Crown winner. I really don't. I have a feeling it could be a few years. It's just such a tough schedule, especially grueling if it does go back to that 1.5 miles, which I'm expecting it will in a few years. It's so tough, especially for these horses with the limited layoffs. I mean, some of them have run back to back in 2 weeks, but then after that, they'll take a 3 to 4 month layoff. So, and unfortunately, when you're in the Triple Crown, you don't have that luxury. It'll maybe be a month layoff between the Preakness and Belmont.
Yeah, that's very true. You know, looking at the new horse mind frame, you know, it's interesting. You see him at 7-2, and you wonder why he's the second favorite here in this race. And then I kind of look at some of the things that the PPs are showing us. Well, for one, his obviously mind blowing 106 buyers or whatever it was. It was 106 Brisnet, and it was 103 buyers. And that's just a great number. And then he won his next race, and obviously this was back in not even that long ago, May 24th, and I didn't see how many lengths he won by. I have to go look at that again. But it was, he hasn't lost yet. And then he's got Tappet, there's some Tappet in him, his sire, so that makes me, that's a great longer race type genetics, is he not?
Yeah, no, I certainly think his pedigree plays a role here. And you look at his first race, like you said, where he broke his maiden, a 7 furlong sprint at Gulfstream, where he won by 13 lengths. Just put on an incredible performance. From there, they moved him up to 1 mile and a 16th, I believe, 1 mile and an 1/8 in an allowance optional claimer at Churchill Downs, where he won by over 7 lengths.
7.5.
Yeah, both of his races have been extremely important here. And then you look at the combination of Irad Ortiz, who's been arguably the best jockey across any racetrack in the past 5 years, and Todd Pletcher, who's had a ton of success in this race. So that kind of just adds to his probability of winning here. And yeah, I do like this 10 over the 9 Sierra Leone. We could talk on it,
Okay.
but it's interesting too, because I think there's arguments that can be made either way for Sierra Leone in this deep closing role of, okay, we now shorten it from 1.5 miles to 1.25 miles. That limits that half-mile closing ability that he would have had to kind of catch up to the leader, come down the backstretch. Or it's given the 1.25 mile distance, the pace is going to pick up, allowing him to set up even better to close kind of in the backstretch. So there's two different mindsets I think people have with this horse. Mine's going to be the first of, I think the shortening of the distance is really going to hurt him here. I think he's going to hit the board for sure, but I have a few other horses that I like up top in that one spot over him. I think Sierra Leone, I'm going to kind of slate in that 2 to 3 position where he's able to close, but I don't think he catches one of the front runners.
Okay, well, there you go. Let's talk about it. Who do you like up top? And then maybe give me one of the favorites and one of the long shots that you like.
Yeah. So like I just said, my favorite in this one's going to be the 10 Mind Frame. Limited races, only 2, but just shown an impressive ability. Has not raced against kind of the classes of horses that we're going to see in those Belmont, but given his first 2 races, I think he's kind of able to withstand that. He's got familiarity in the jockey, Irad Ortiz, and Pletcher knows what it takes to get it done in this race. So if I'm picking between him and Sierra Leone, I'm going with the 10 Mind Frame. In terms of a few long shots here, I have 2 actually. So I have the number 5 Antiquarian. Only 4 starts to his name, but he broke his maiden in his second outing on a sloppy surface at Fairgrounds. He suffered a setback in the Louisiana Derby where he actually broke through the starting gate before the race, but was still able to kind of stay in contention. I think he finished 4th in that one. And then you look at his most recent outing after the Louisiana Derby. He won the Peter Pan, which we've seen several winners of the Belmont kind of come from that race before. He put on an impressive performance, winning by just under a length, despite being bumped at the start. So I like the 5 here. His workouts have been good as well heading into this race. Another Todd Pletcher horse here. And then you got Johnny V, who's one of the most veteran jockeys in this field. And then my other long shot is going to be actually Dornoch. So Dornoch last raced in the Derby, didn't get a good start at all. Didn't get a good start at all, excuse me. Kind of shuffled out of the gate there. But you look at his races before that, he finished 4th in the Bluegrass Stakes. Not a great race for him. And then before that, he won the Fountain of Youth in the Resman. But like we mentioned before, both of his last 2 races, he didn't get the ideal trip he wanted by any means. He was kind of held out of the gate, wasn't able to get out to the front of the pace here. I think Luis Saez puts an extreme emphasis on that heading into this race. So I think he's going to push him up front, and he should have a chance here if he's able to kind of get that start. But like we said, those last 2 races, he hasn't been able to. So at 15 to 1, I'm kind of willing to take a chance on this horse. And he's shown he has kind of the speed that can compete here. He beat Sierra Leone back in that Remsen Stakes. So,
which was 1.1 miles too.
Yep. He's done it before. So I don't mind those 2 of Antiquarian and Dornoch as long shot plays here.
You make a good point, and I mean, the way I looked at it is just like, I feel that Sierra Leone should have won the Derby. You had the fighting between him and the Japanese horse, and
Forever Young.
Yes, that back and forth. And you had the best trip of all time from obviously Mystic Dan on a wetter track. And Mystic Dan's a good slopper. And I watched I rewatched the Preakness before you came on about 20 minutes ago, half hour ago. And Mystic Dan was faltering at the end of that. And that's 1.125 miles. I feel like even though it's just 1.25 miles, he would need another perfect trip to win this thing. So I'm almost more of a fade person on Mystic Dan. I think he's already had his time in the obviously in the number 1. And I think I just, the problem is I'm sitting here liking the horse that's got 9 to 5 odds. It's like less than 2 and 1 right now. And I don't know what's going to happen when on race day. I think it probably stays pretty close to that. Maybe you get 2-1, but I do like Flavian Pratt a lot. I almost feel like the way I have to play it is almost like take him, and if I have to put him with mind frame, that's all I'm betting type situation. And it's almost like it's not going to pay well at all. And a terrible exacta on that. It's almost like an exacta box might not even pay right on that. It's so bad. It's and I did like mind frame some. I just don't like mind frame's price.
Yeah. I mean, at that rate, you'd almost do a 10-9 over the 10-9 and then kind of just build a super out of it to try to get some value of those long shots coming in, maybe third or fourth if you do a try or a super just to add some value. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards backing mind frame. So that's just my thought process here. But yeah,
what about the one horse too? And sorry if I interrupted you.
No. So, I mean, Mystic Dan's also the only horse that has raced in the first two legs of the Triple Crown here. So there's an argument to be made of he's finished first and second in the Derby and the Preakness, and kind of just hang him up and his stud fee is going to pay for another 200 horses for this the owner. But yeah, I guess they're going to kind of give him one last go here. I'm not sure what's going to happen to him after that. Maybe we see him in the Travers later on this summer. So who knows? The one horse I am disappointed in not competing in this was Torpedo Anna. We talked about her in the Kentucky Oaks. She ended up winning that. There was a rumor that she was going to be in the field here. And we haven't seen a filly kind of win this in the last few years, but that would have been fun to add to the storylines this week. And yeah, Seize the Gray is another interesting one. We haven't seen too many winners come from the Preakness, given kind of that short layoff time. Impressive.
But he is in the one hole. He is in the one hole.
He is in the, yeah. I know. I don't love the horse, especially kind of given the layoff here. I'm trying to find something. I read something about this horses who came from the Preakness. Yeah, so only 3 Preakness alumni from the past 20 years have come back to win the Belmont. Notably, all 3 of those horses who did win, coming from the Preakness to the Belmont, were the winners. So he did win the Preakness. I guess he could be kind of in line with that statistic. But like I mentioned, only 3 of the past, only 3 Preakness alumni from the past 20 years have won the Belmont. So it hasn't been a great history.
If it does end up raining, you want to
go back to Mystic Dan. Yeah, you go back to those two.
Yeah, Mystic Dan, you go back to Seize the Gray too. And so it's just going to be interesting when we actually pull up the odds here. It's funny. I'm probably going to do what you said. I'm probably going to grab 2 horses and put them on top, and maybe I'll add a third for second, and then just all button type situation, and just hope it's not necessarily going to be one of those I break even or lose a little bit of money tickets, because it goes Sierra Leone. If I do go with mind frame, it goes Sierra Leone mind frame, even with an all button, not going to pay a ton of money. So I have to decide, but I'm kind of I'm a little bit higher on Seize the Gray than I am about Mystic Dan. I think you have a great argument.
I would agree.
You have a great argument for Dornoch too, how he did beat Sierra Leone back in December on a pretty long track, obviously at the Remsen. So that's something I'm going to think about as well. So maybe I could pivot a little bit to a nice horse that's 15-1, and Luis Saez is a fantastic jockey, isn't he?
Yeah, he really is. And in terms of kind of where I think personally these odds are going to go, and it's such kind of a thing. It's such a game to play with yourself of, is the horse going to get bet down because its name, the jockey, or just kind of where the public money is coming in from? I think Sierra Leone does go off as the favorite around that 9-5 range. I could see Mind Frame maybe sneaking in there as well, going down maybe even a little shorter to kind of 3-1 range, dropping from that 3.5 to 3. The Wine Steward, I mean, it's just a fun name. I'm sure people will be on that horse when they shouldn't be. So I'm guessing he'll go off around 12-1. Mystic Dan and Seize the Gray will get bet down as well, given that they've won the Derby and Preakness. So that's kind of where I see it moving. If you can bet fixed odds, I would do so on Antiquarian and Dornoch. I know FanDuel offers that sometimes, but I don't think many other books do. I know DraftKings doesn't.
Yeah, there's a few. Bet Online does, I know, for
Yeah.
offshore. So it is. Yeah, I think the big decision is going to be made when the weather comes in. But it sounds like I'm a little bit more on Seas the Gray. You're a little bit more on Door Knock and Antiquarian. But me and you both have agreement on Mind Frame being pretty close to the top. And I think I like Sierra Leone a little bit more than you. So how much do you think you're going to invest on your ticket?
Yeah, so I kind of have it all set now. So I have two $10 win bets on the 5 and the 6 here, which should pay out if they a decent rate if they stay double digit here. And then I got a $4 exacta. So the $10 win bet for 2 horses is going to cost $20. After that, I add a $4 exacta. I'm going with 10 over the 1, 3, 5, 6, 9. So that's going to cost $20 as well. So that's Mind Frame over Seize the Gray, Mystic Dan, Antiquarian, Door Knock, and then Sierra Leone. Obviously, I'm hoping Sierra Leone doesn't come in that slot right there to kind of get a better price, but I am kind of protecting myself if that does happen. And, with these larger pools, especially in the Triple Crown days, you're going to get some money back more than you kind of traditionally would on just a random Thursday or Friday at Saratoga. So you do have to factor that in. And I have a long shot superfecta as well. I talked about this race setting up where I think if Mind Frame does win, Sierra Leone will be right behind him. So I have the 10 over the 9 over the 1, 3, 5, 6 over all. So that's Mind Frame over Sierra Leone over Seize the Gray, Mystic Dan, Door Knock, Antiquarian over the all. And that's $28 for a $1 super. So 3 tickets, all kind of around that $20 range. Yeah, that's kind of think I'm going to attack it here. That's at least what I have on the board now. Who knows? As we get closer to race time and we see some things change, I'll probably add a few tickets as well.
Maybe you'll add a trifecta because you didn't discuss that.
Yeah, so I think I would do the same thing as kind of that $4 exacta, whereas I'd key a horse on top, whether it's that 10 Mind Frame, who I think of the 2 favorites, like I mentioned before, is the better horse. So I'd maybe do the 10 over the 1, 3, 5, 6, 9, and then kind of just repeat that as well. I don't think the 4 and the 7 are going to be in play in terms of that third spot, but maybe they'll get in there for the 4th position, which is why I put that all in the superfecta. And I guess at that point, you're kind of just hoping they do come in, given their odds.
Oh, nice. Absolutely. Well, when you make that decision, where could our listeners and viewers go for that information?
Yeah, I should have my article posted later today on theoddsbreakers.com. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And yeah, any other live plays, I will post on my Twitter account. So stay tuned as well.
Sounds like you're going to be watching from a different state.
Yeah. A little bachelor party this weekend. So I don't know in terms of the live betting how that's going to impact that, but I'm sure it will one way or the other. So yeah, if you see any rogue $100 tickets, be sure to call me off on those.
Yeah, make sure you're real careful with Patrick's state of mind.
Great. I'm gonna have to lock my FanDuel account.
Hopefully it doesn't work from that state if it comes to that, my friend.
I hope so. Yeah.
Well, great stuff, Patrick. Make sure you guys check out Patrick Gates at Gator Betting. It's been a pleasure. We'll talk soon, Patrick.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.